I have mental health. Mental health for men. Fire, bonfire. Don't sleep. Ice bath. Strength train. More strategies.
Carnivore diet.
Eat with hands. Steak. Always steak. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Snack. Steak. Liver. Liver King. Crashed out. Crashed out. Recorded it publicly. Men. Beard. Muscles. Knife. Always carry knife. Knife in pocket.
You're always in threat.
Feelings.
Jiu-jitsu.
Feelings. No. Emotions. No. Cardigan. But leave that part out. You could use everything else. Don't use that.
Welcome to 3%. We're your hosts, Jamie Haig.
And I'm Blake Roberts.
We're two best friends, fathers, husbands, and just two guys trying to figure it out.
We're also therapists, which is probably a pretty important part.
That's true.
And we believe that at our best, people are 97% honest with themselves and others. And it's that hidden 3% of emotions, needs, desires, and behaviors that we keep to ourselves that keep us bound to shame and loneliness, from which many of our issues stem.
Each week on this podcast, we'll interview leaders in the fields of psychology, theology, arts, and athletics to explore holistic masculinity. We're not here to tell you the man you need to be, but we are here to help you explore what gets in the way of being the man you want to be.
We're going to help you develop courage and give you the tools to share your 3% in the relationships that matter most so you can more deeply connect with yourself, God, and others. So, pull up a chair.
Let's get into it.
So let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 3% Podcast.
Wow.
I'm your host, Jamie Hillsborough. And this is my co-host. That was quick. And we are very excited to chat with you today. We are feeling hype.
Somewhat unhinged.
Unhinged because we just had a pretty fun weekend. At the time of recording this, we wrapped up one of our yearly that doesn't make sense. We wrapped up our yearly retreat. This one felt a little short. If you've listened to the show for a minute, you have known that the way 3% started was on a retreat when we thought we were going to plan a design business, and then we ended up starting this thing. So, just this past weekend out in Smithville, Tennessee, on beautiful Center Hill Lake.
Shout out.
Back to the cabin that we have been at before. If you're an OG, you would remember one of the videos, I believe, one of the episodes we recorded at this podcast.
Yeah,
We were
either
smoking
from
cigars.
August or September maybe
Of last year?
of last year.
Yeah, and we were smoking cigars and
It's called What's the Point in
sitting
Changing?
around the fire. That's what the cabin's called?
No, it's what the episode's called.
Welcome to What's the Point in Changing?
I think that's what the episode's called.
I think so. Anyways, all those details don't matter at all. The point being, we, Jamie Hillsborough and Blake Shelton, are working on a book of sorts
A book.
for 3%.
It is a book.
Surprise! Bow, bow, bow.
Even more than a book of sorts, it's a book of the paper variety.
Yep. We sound drunk. We're not. At least not on alcohol. Maybe something else. I don't know. We are creating a field guide. It's going to be under 100 pages. At least that's our goal.
Yep.
And it's really going to be it's going to be the foundation of what 3% is.
Yeah, and how it can tangibly impact your relationship with yourself, God, and others.
Yep.
We're hoping that it'll act somewhat like a toolkit of sorts,
Yeah.
or a place
Easy
that
to
you
read.
easy to read, a place you can go to connect with yourself. Hopefully has a bit of humor in it, even though we're talking about, heavier things. So
My portion will definitely have humor in it.
that's true. Yeah, so we
We're
are
writing it
making an
together.
effort to write together. Boy, spoiler, writing a book is hard.
Mm-hmm. It is. So we're doing it though, because why not add one more hard thing on the plate?
Yeah, that's right.
Because men, strong, hard, do hard things. Always.
Never stop.
Don't sleep.
Persevere. Grit.
David Goggins.
Carry the boats.
Carry the books?
The boats.
Oh, carry the boats.
Yeah, that's his.
That's
That's
his
his
thing?
David Goggins. That's his thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ours will be carry the books.
Carry the books.
Learn. Carry the books, man. So if you are a part of a church and you want to have us come speak at your church, and then all of you can have this field guide, let us know.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
This is the longest intro of our lives to set up that today's episode is going to be us fleshing out.
Kind of
Is that the right
discussing the main themes of section 1 of the book.
Section 1 of the book, which is 4 chapters.
4 chapters. There's 3 main sections of the book. The first one is the 3% that happened to you. The second one is the 3% that is within you now. And the third section is the 3%, what to do with your 3% moving forward.
Yep.
So,
3 sections, few chapters each.
yeah. And each one you should be able to use just on its own as a standalone chapter, and they'll have kind of reflections tools in there. But what we are doing today is talking about, we have a few questions that came up that are kind of themes within that first section. And we just thought we'd talk about it, and kind of as a way to explore what this book is about before we even get to, yeah, obviously we haven't finished the book yet. We started writing the book.
We have
But-
finished this section that we were going to talk to you about.
Yeah,
At least the first draft of it.
that's correct. And so we thought it would be cool to discuss these ideas, get feedback from all of you on what other questions still remain from you as you hear it, and give you a little taste of what you can expect from the book. Right?
Yep.
So
And this is our last podcast, by the way, this episode. We're done after this.
you just freak some people out, dude. Hey, don't come after me for the things that Blake says when he's tired.
I'm not tired. Man. I am man.
Heart, strong. Never quit. Never surrender.
I'm not tired. Tired men are a word for
Whoa, chill. Dude, cancel this guy. Okay.
if I get canceled, you get canceled too.
I'm uncancelable, dude. I don't know what that means, but whatever. All right, moving on.
So bad.
This-
Okay, here we go. Episode starts now.
You guys.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I really apologize.
this is insane. And we are going to put it out there for public consumption anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So, love you guys. Thanks for staying with us. Hopefully you're still with us because we're about to start the real stuff. All right. We got 5 questions. We'll see how many of these we make it through.
This might be our last podcast. After they do this, they're like, unsubscribe.
Yeah, that's right. The first question, and just as a reminder, part 1 is the 3% that happened to you. So these are some questions that came up as we were writing through that. The first question is, why does a memory that lasted an afternoon or even less time end up running someone's whole life for decades? I think to even name what that question is asking is, sometimes we can have these experiences, traumatic experiences that we may not even be able to name without taking a harder look at it, but how that experience shaped our perception of reality for years and influenced the way that we receive information from other people, the way that we perceive the world, and perceive our relationship to ourselves and others.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, why does a memory that lasted an afternoon end up running someone's whole life for decades? What are your thoughts?
Well, there's the fancy neuroscience behind why that happens, which you wrote that chapter.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you can either share those facts or just tell people to wait till they read the book.
Yeah.
So no,
There's some
right,
things
book.
there's some things I'll probably share that I think are validating.
Yeah. The first thing I would name is that read it one more time. Sorry.
Why does a memory that lasted an afternoon end up running someone's whole life for decades?
The first thing I would articulate for the listener who you could hear that question and maybe feel shame.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for most of us, if there's a memory or a thing that happened in the past that is ruling our life in some way, we are not intentionally choosing for that to happen.
I love that note. Yep.
The thing that happened to you when you were 8, or the things that didn't happen that should have happened, say in your family system when you were growing up, have an impact on you today. And that doesn't mean that you are choosing for it to have an impact. I think that's one place I would start. I sometimes draw this with clients where we talk about the top part and the bottom part of the brain. And if the top part of the brain is the prefrontal cortex, and it's responsible for processing information and storing knowledge and learning. So like when you're listening to this podcast, mostly the top part of your brain is activated. When you're reading a book, when you are learning something, the prefrontal cortex is what is firing. And then the bottom half of the brain, if you imagine I'm holding a brain, the bottom half, the limbic system, which is then connected to the vagus nerve that runs down the longest nerve that goes through the body, is where emotion is stored and memory. And I don't remember the exact number, but the bottom portion of the brain operates at something insane, like somebody's gonna have to fact check this, like 1,000 times faster than the top part of the brain.
Oof.
Which, when I heard that, helped me have so much compassion for my story and the old pieces of my story that still have an influence on me today. Because what that suggests is you can know something about something, and you can know that your parents love you. Generally, parents love you, want good for you. You could have had an experience either at the hands of your parents or an experience that they didn't really meet you in, that to your limbic system, to the emotional brain and your nervous system, doesn't quite align with that knowing that they love you. Like, it's a little confusing. So that, this may not be the best example, but that feeling, the emotion, the memory will, when we're not working on integration of the two, will overpower the knowledge. Or I'll use it as an example of, like, if people have an overreaction, like their reaction to the situation present day is it doesn't match, the emotional reaction doesn't match what actually happened. That's a perfect example of, like, I know that this isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But my emotional reaction is like it is because my body is telling a different story.
Like that whole thing I've mentioned on here before, John Cox's 2 + 2 = 10.
Right.
Where'd that other 6 come from?
Yep. So all that to say, the memory having a lasting impact is partly how our brains and bodies are wired.
Because the lower brain is really built for survival.
Yes.
So if it doesn't react that way, in threat management, then that actually might be a misfiring of that part of the brain.
And if you have a memory or an experience or memories that were threatening, felt threatening, physically, emotionally, that's what that, like the brain associates that as threatening. And then like the lack of integration or the lack of awareness, then the body just like stays in the state like there's a constant threat. So all that to say, I feel like I said that 3 times. You are not choosing for these things to still have an impact on you. That is just the way that our brains and our bodies are wired. And I used to think that like kind of sucks. Like that's why do these things that happened so long ago have to have an impact on me today without my conscious awareness of it? That sucks. And most days I still think that sucks. And on the other hand of it is like, if God designed our brains and our bodies that way, which I believe he did, then it's like an invitation. It can be an invitation to go back to those memories or those experiences and meet them or attune to them, meaning give them what they need in a way that they didn't have then. It's like the process of sanctification, I guess, in some way.
That you can recognize what feels threatening and be able to go back and, at the time this one comes out, I'm not sure if this Scott and Justin episode will be out, but it's an invitation to go back and be hospitable. I don't know what the first word I just said there was.
Hospitable.
An invitation to go back and be hospitable to those wounded or hypervigilant parts of you, hyper-aroused parts of you that are sensing threat.
Yep.
So why does a memory that lasted an afternoon end up running someone's whole life for decades? Because they're trying to stay safe from the threat that doesn't feel like it's gone. I think that's
a good summary.
Succinctly, it's like, if you always believed that there was a tiger chasing you because your body was experiencing the world as if it was, like it was around every corner, then that's going to shape the way that you interact with every corner. Yeah, it is really interesting how it can impact you that much. And as far as like the neuroscience goes, a few things that our brain is wired for. One is negativity bias. So negativity bias would be like, an easy example would be if 10 people give you a compliment and then one person gives you a critique or a criticism, says something negative. Which one do you think you're going to be up at 2 a.m. thinking about? And that's because, same thing we were just talking about with wiring, our brain is, I'm trying to remember how it, what the word is, but it will encode. There we go. We landed. Our brains will encode negative experiences with more color and context than positive experiences. Why? Because our brain is meant to help us, or that threat management system of our brain is meant to help us avoid situations that would lead to threats or danger for us. So you have the way in the research that I was reading about when we were writing, it was like you can have an experience of equal weight. We'll use the words positive and negative here, even though listeners of the show will know that we're not like super hyped on those definitions. But if you have an equal weight positive experience and negative experience, the negative experience is going to encode with a lot richer context to it. And that is so that your nervous system can be more easily activated by recall of that. So things that encode with greater context are easier to retrieve. So if you can retrieve it easier, then your nervous system can be activated easier. Another thing that happens is that we will believe that frequency of experience, when we think something is a frequent experience, what it actually is an easily retrievable experience. So if I had somebody say this one thing to me and it was really hurtful, well, if I can recall that with frequency, or if I can recall instances similar to it with frequency, or with easily, if I can recall them easily, then that starts to re-encode as a frequency. So then our negativity bias says this happens all the time. So that everyone thinks I'm this thing. And or everyone is like this person who abused me.
Yeah.
So it reinforces the same nervous system encoding that would keep us avoiding that threat.
Yeah.
So there's real neuroscience to why it happens. That doesn't make it easier to hold. I was just going to see if there was anything else I was going to name in there. All right, let's move on. What's the actual difference between guilt and shame, and why does that distinction matter for how someone recovers? This kind of gets into the last question on here, is what's the difference between naming what happened to you and building your identity around it? So we like Brene Brown's definition of guilt and shame. You had one other definition of shame that I'll let you get that.
Pretty juicy one.
Yeah. So I'll say Brene Brown's and then you say that one.
I'll find mine.
Brene Brown's definition is guilt says I did something bad, and shame says I am bad. So shame is an identity. Guilt is a incongruence of behavior and value. Why that matters is to me, it also impacts the negativity bias that we were just talking about. If you were to take something on as identity in order to stay safe from, say you're in a family system and you need to take on the identity that you are too much so that you can learn to stay small, because when you make yourself big, you get punished or there's threats in the environment, then the shame is going to be one of the protective measures that your nervous system is going to use. And then your negativity bias is going to reinforce that by looking for every place that you get big and there's a negative outcome from it. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Whereas guilt would allow you to say, hey, I did this thing that's outside of what I value, and I'm not proud of what I did, and I can apologize there. Shame would say, I am something bad. And we can then live out of the identity of shame, whereas living out of the... I find it easier to work with people on guilt calls us to seek forgiveness.
Yeah.
Shame can be a limitation, but often we miscolor it as an identity.
Yeah.
And we live from it instead of caring for it. What were you going to say?
Shame is, if there was one, I don't want to get too off topic, but if there was one common experience that I had to name between all clients that I see, there would be shame.
Mm-hmm.
Like so much of the time.
I encounter a lot of resistance to that too.
It comes down to shame. And in myself too. So there's a lot that I have an understanding about when it comes to shame, and a lot that I still am confused about of what it actually is, what it isn't. But there's a book, it's kind of like a clinical book because it's written for therapists, called Understanding and Treating Chronic Shame.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty heady and heavy, but just to give the definition, one thing I remember her saying is that shame feels solitary, like that it's only the thing that you experience, but it's inherently relational.
Oh. Oh, wait, say more.
Because it happens first in relationship. Like which is inevitable. Like in humanity, it's inevitable, but like when a baby comes into the world, they don't really come in feeling or exhibiting the emotion of shame. Like they're not ashamed that they exist. They're not ashamed that they have needs.
Right.
They're not ashamed to reach out.
Yeah.
But then they start to learn that. How? Because the person that's supposed to meet those needs is not perfect and is going to think of themselves first. And so the shame exists first in relationship.
Ooh. Okay.
Then you just carry it.
And then we over-identify it being a problem with us.
Just us, yep. So then we keep it solitary.
Yeah.
But if shame happened first in relationship, then the way for shame to really heal is to bring it in the light in the context of relationship.
So if my belief is that my needs don't matter, or my needs are too much, or I am a problem because I have needs, because of how I encountered my caregiver,
Mm-hmm.
then the way to care for those now
Mm-hmm.
is to bring them into relationship bring those thoughts into relationship with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
She said the shame is the experience of myself
Mm-hmm.
in relation to another, when in relation is ruptured or disconnected.
Ah, okay.
So a chronic sense of self in disconnection becomes a profound sense of isolation, which in turn leads to feelings of despair and unworthiness. Shame.
Okay. So if I am making up who I am in the context of not having my relational needs met, or there being relational disconnection, if I'm developing my self-concept in that space, then the lack of relational connection while I am building my value and worth
Mm-hmm.
will lead to a sense of worthlessness.
Yes, because kids need attachment, and we also need authenticity. It's the Gabor Mate video.
Mm-hmm.
But we're always going to choose attachment and connection with our caregiver. So if there's a lack of the connection, or what she calls so she talks about having a regulated other.
Ooh.
Particularly a caregiver. So this is someone who I can rely on to respond to my emotions in a way for me not to be overwhelmed by them, but to help me contain, accept, and integrate them.
Ooh.
So if that's a need that we have, like a core need, and there's an inconsistency or a lack thereof completely of them being able to contain, accept, and help us integrate the emotions, then that will feel like something's wrong.
Mm.
But as a kid, we are not going to have the development to go, oh, maybe my parent's missing something,
Oh, yeah.
because that would then threaten the attachment. So we unconsciously internalize it.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you're a
There's
parent
one more thing I'll
listening
read.
to this, it's like parenting's hard.
Totally.
And so this isn't making up that even all of this is intentionally malicious on the part of a parent. Like Blake said earlier, parents are human.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we engage with them as kids, what we are needing is a regulated other. And what we are getting is a human being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not, like this exists on such a spectrum, right? There's like the acknowledgement and the awareness to have as the adult. Somebody's brewing coffee in the lobby. I don't know if they can hear that. Oh, I want some coffee now. There's the awareness and the acknowledgement of that as an adult to like accept our parents' humanity. And this is kind of getting to the last question maybe a little bit. There has to be an honoring of our younger selves to go, if you had the experience where there was a lot of pain in context of your family of origin and at the hands of your caregivers, to be able to honor and go like, yeah, but it wasn't your fault that they weren't working through the reality of their humanity.
Right.
And it seems like people are often on one end of that spectrum or the other, where there's a hyper responsibility of defending the parents' humanity and a lack of honoring their own experience as the kid.
Yep.
Or on the other end of the spectrum, where there's not a lot of acknowledgement or honoring of parents' humanity. Let's say if a parent is like trying and owning things and just like complete blame.
Yep. Yep. Which I've said on here, I've been on both ends of that
Totally.
spectrum.
Yeah, same. And we write about this. The reason we're even talking so much about caregivers in this section is because we write about this in the field guide. We open with personal stories.
Yeah.
That can
stick with you
and
yeah.
And it's
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna need to consolidate which one we answer right now. So here's
in 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, because we're going to get to what's the difference between naming what happened to you and building your identity around it. But I think before that, we should get to why does keeping something secret do more damage over time than the thing that happened in the first place? Because I think it relates to what you said, which is that if we keep it in secret, why are we keeping it in secret in the first place?
Shame.
And if shame is relational to begin with, then the solution will be relational. And if we keep something in secret, if we hold our 3%, then it makes sense that would lead to profound loneliness. Because in the secret is where the shame is creating the narrative that we are the worthless thing that our disconnection would suggest we are. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so why does it do more damage over time? Well, not only do we have to suffer the belief that we are what our lack of attachment created the narrative of, we also behave out of that place. So I feel unsafe. Well, then I'm going to look to other things for safety. I feel unworthy. I'm going to look to someone or something to give me worth. I feel like, I mean, there could be chaos. So then I feel discomfort unless the chaos is there because the chaos became so comfortable. So then I start to create chaos to maintain safety. All of that happens because this shame is not brought back into relationship with a regulated other.
Right. Yep.
Anything you would add to that?
No.
That kind of hit me as you were talking about this.
Yeah.
I know we were just writing about this, but actually just now as you're writing about or talking about it, I'm like, boy, it makes so much sense that telling the 3% to someone is just not about you doing the quote right thing.
Right.
It is so much about you getting to feel known and loved And in being known and loved and in relationship with a regulated other, you then have the capacity to become more like Christ in how you love other people.
And become known and loved in the particular places in your story where there was a lack of being known and loved.
Yeah.
Because if there was a true experience of being known and loved,
Mm-hmm.
then with what you're saying with the research of the positive and negative experiences, would that be a memory that would have encoded that sticks with me and impacts me and keeps me in this hypervigilant state? No.
No. And you probably have some memories that were positive
Mm-hmm.
and where you were met.
Totally.
And the problem is you can have 10 of those and one that's not. And that's where it gets into...
It doesn't mean that you're like ungrateful or like choosing to focus on the negative. This is literal neuroscience, neurobiology, the way that we're wired.
Yeah, and it's also not to minimize that, like, having one traumatic experience in the midst of 10 good ones doesn't mean that you should be like, well, you had 10 good ones, so
Yeah.
forget that one bad one.
Right.
That's not what we're saying either. We're just saying it can color the whole picture.
Yes.
And so bringing it back into relationship with someone is the way that you can really like start to unravel what you want that landscape to really look like.
Yep.
Landscapes, ding, 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 attachment. How about that?
How about it?
Inspired by and stolen directly from Armchair Expert there with the ding, ding, ding. Sorry about that.
How to avoid Jamie Hillsborough.
Thanks, Blake Shelton. The last
We got
one that,
to 35-minute intro.
well, it was fun. What's the difference between naming what happened to you and building your identity around it? Boy, I feel like I can answer this one
Go
pretty
for it.
good. I
What I was thinking is, oh, sorry. Oh, you said you were going to answer?
Oh, that's so weird,
Okay.
dude. That's so weird. Yeah, I feel relationally disconnected. I'm gonna go have to find another regulated other real quick.
Because it definitely ain't me. Regulated other is not in my vocab right now. All right, tell us.
So, gosh, dude, this threw me the heck off.
God.
Oh, okay. I have said on Instagram, I'm not sure if I said it on here, but identifying as a victim can feel really cozy.
Mm.
And I'll just use my own experience to talk about this at the risk of making someone else feel shame for theirs. I mean, if you've listened to more than one episode of this podcast, you probably know that I have a history of being abused.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I did with my story is that I started to align with the value that it got me when people knew that I had been abused. The care that I received because of that felt like value. And so I started to over-identify with, I started to build my identity around maybe not even being a survivor of that, but just the experience, the fact that it had happened got me care from others, and that felt like value. Yeah. And I think I let that go for a long time because even that in itself felt like control. It felt like not just control, it felt like healing a bit of the such wounded part of me that was desperate for care. And so the difference between naming it and building your identity around it for me would be, I wasn't naming it so that I could receive care in the experiences themselves. I was naming it to others so I could get that hit of awe that they got when they recognize that I'm still a functioning human being. That felt like care. And really what it was shock and being impressed. But it was more about that situation and the aftermath of that situation and not who I am. So it's not bringing myself back into attachment with a regulated other. It's bringing my story into the theater where it can be viewed and be given applause.
Yep.
But I built my identity around continuing to display it for the applause.
Yep.
Not intentionally.
No.
But it was just, I wanted care.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the distinction that I would make is it is tempting to sit in the care or whatever need you get met by people hearing what happened to you. Don't know if y'all heard that. Little crash out. But it is ultimately, it's as empty of an identity as shame was to begin with. Like it's not sustaining to have something that happened to you be the thing that becomes your identity in the vacuum of shame.
Yeah.
Well, or where shame still exists, and then you're trying to numb it out with getting applause. But there is, like, you are worth loving as you are, I guess would be the hope turn of that. Like, and that is really hard to experience until you bring yourself fully and honestly into relationship with someone and you name these things with the regulated other. That's the difference.
Yep.
Anything else for me on that? All right.
I don't think I need to. I think you
Yeah.
summed it up really well.
Okay. Yeah, that one's tricky. Definitely don't
We'll
want
do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, I don't want to shame anybody who's in the midst of like receiving care, and part of the grieving process is like it's going to over-index as something so important about you as you name what happened to you, and that gets murky with building your identity around it. But you are worth loving as you are, and I think it's pretty clear when the difference is that someone is loving you for what happened to you, or they're caring for you for what happened to you, and not you as you are. So,
You guys made it.
I mean, if you made it to
That
the end of
roller
this
coaster.
one, then we have laughed together. We have, maybe you cried from how long the intro was. But regardless, as always, we are glad you're here. Wow, hello.
I'll take over.
Who am I bringing Blake with an intro right now? We are glad you are here. Keep showing up. You're worth it.
That laugh at the end made you sound like you were 70.
Listen, I hope I laugh like that later in life. Let's just get breathier and wheezier with it. Me on a porch.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode. Listen, we're working on some really practical resources to help you connect more deeply with yourself and others. So if you head over to our website, 3percentco.com, you can learn more about that. The link will be in the show notes. And this is the part of the show where we ask you for some help. Listen, we don't have a big fancy production team. We're recording these in my therapy office in between sessions and in the margins of our life. We just really believe in the message that much. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and rarely would I take the time to review and rate a show, just because honestly, I forgot. It wasn't until we started doing this show that I realized doing that actually really does help these platforms notice our show and get the word out. And so if any of this is impactful to you, we would love it if you took a second to leave us a review, rate us, or if you want to just do it the old-fashioned way, text this link to a friend and say, hey, let's talk about this episode. Whatever you do, make sure to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to so you never miss an episode. We're really grateful you're here, and we'll see you next week.
So let's be honest. So let's be honest. Let's be honest.